Welcome to KMXT's Talk of the Rock, our local community affairs program, where we explore issues and organizations related to our community. Talk of the Rock is hosted by members of the KMXT News team.
And I'm not really a member of the news team, but I'm Pam. And with me today is Marion, Owen.
She's adjusting my mic.
I just had to fix. There
That's
we go.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Marion.
Good afternoon. Happy sunny day.
Yes, it is sunny. Is it warm out there? I haven't been outside since this morning.
It's happening. You know what? It's almost 80 degrees in the greenhouse.
Holy moly.
Just want to tell you.
That's amazing. Can I just come hang out in the greenhouse like a sauna?
Sure. I'll provide the coffee. You can
Good
put your
deal.
foot up. Great. Yeah.
Good deal. I like that deal. So we are here today for Talk of the Rock to talk about gardening, as you might imagine. Gardening is a topic that Marion is well versed in. You are a master gardener, if not I'm not mistaken.
Officially, we could call this gardening on the rock. Yeah. I mean, officially, I took the course years ago, but I consider myself kind of in the trenches, kind of a gardener.
Okay.
Yeah, very experiential.
Very experiential. But you've been gardening here on the island for how many years?
About 37 years, maybe.
Okay,
going
something
on
like
40, something like that.
So lots of experience with our weird climate and strange springs and all of that sort of stuff. So one of the things that you and I were laughing about not too long ago was the fact that I have a very small yard and I have containers and they are currently frozen solid and full of snow and drifted snow around them. So one of the things we might talk about today is what do we do with these conditions currently to prepare our yards, our containers, our gardens, our raised beds. Mm-hmm. Let's just start there. What can people be doing right now to get ready for spring plantings?
There's several things you can do. I encourage people to just get outside and go for a walk around your yard and garden. Just be a curious observer. See what's happening.
Okay.
It could be green shoots. You might go, whoa, there's crocus bulbs coming up, leaves. Your primroses might be doing something. Maybe there's a little bit of a die-off in your salmonberries. But one thing that's important to do is before you even think about planting anything outside is check in on the soil. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's frozen, and if you put a plastic cover over it, by golly, it thaws right out. Do you have seedlings started? That's one thing to do in preparation of outside activities. And so,
is it too late to start seedlings?
No, it's not too late.
Okay.
It really isn't. I mean, your main crop of your broccoli and kales and lettuces and that kind of thing, your salad greens, perfect timing.
Okay.
If you think in terms of maybe planting out, that is transplanting outside, maybe May 15th.
Okay.
So May 15th to May 1st, back to April 1st, that's 6 weeks. So any time in early April is perfect for that.
Okay.
Now, you might have missed the boat for, say, things that take a long time, like leeks and parsley, but don't fret about it. There's enough places around town where we can buy those seedlings. It's perfect. It's perfect, yeah. It's meant to be an enjoyable hobby, not a sweat thing. Yeah. So maybe if you have a compost pile that's sort of dead in the water over the winter, maybe start it up again. Save food scraps. If you're able to, bury them in your raised beds. They'll start breaking down,
So warm that soil up first so that it's not frozen anymore, and then start putting in your compost and mixing it in.
Right. It's kind of a dig and drop. Now, you might have microclimates where part of your yard is in the sun and the other is in the shade of the house. So work on what's friable and fluffy.
Okay.
Start there. And look at things like your rhododendrons. Did they suffer winter damage? Maybe you didn't get around to pruning your raspberries in the fall. So these are the kind of things you can do.
Okay, well, that's what I was just going to back up. You mentioned salmonberry bushes. Is now the proper time to be taking the dead canes out of salmonberry bushes as well? Do you know what I mean? Because there's always weird growth.
What if you snap the end of a raspberry or a salmonberry and it's brown, then you can prune back.
Okay.
I think we're sort of out of the period where we're going to have like really hard freezes. I mean, we might have some freezes, but not a deep freeze. So doing that kind of thing is okay.
Okay.
And it also keeps you in tune with what's going on around the yard.
Sure.
And that's what's really, really important. It's just, during the Exxon Valdez oil spill, before the oil arrived at Kodiak, every scientist on the planet in Kodiak was out there getting data. Like, what do the beaches and rocks and stuff look like before the oil hits? So it's not that dramatic. Go out in your yard and just kind of get a feel for what's going on. Yeah.
Mine's still covered in snow.
Well, I then recommend get 2 pizzas and about 15 kids and a bunch of hair dryers. Thaw those things out.
Melt it down.
But you could even put plastic over the top of it, some sort of dome, that kind of thing. Or think in terms of next fall, maybe before we head into winter, is to move those containers somewhere where they'll get first light. Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, sometimes that's not possible.
You might have to get a dolly.
Yes. Well, or most of my light is early morning light, which is not particularly, your warmer light throughout the day is going to be later afternoon light. And then that's when my area drops completely into shade. So, but I know that the plastic will certainly assist and help. So if you're growing your own seedlings, and so 6 weeks is kind of a good target for many plants to think about for transplanting them.
Right.
So you could start them now, or you could start them anytime the first week of April, potentially.
Yes. And the other thing to remember is it's not just one and done.
What do you mean?
So start a set of seedlings now.
Right.
Start another set in 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
So you can kind of
rotate and lengthen your gardening season. We have no idea what our summer and fall is going to be. If it's benevolent and warm, you can keep sowing and growing and harvesting way into the fall.
So we're talking mostly food crops at this point.
And but even marigolds and your calendulas and so on, and your flowers, you can stagger those as well, because like Nemesia, for example, which is a multicolored, it's oranges and yellows and reds, grows about 8 inches tall, kind of clumps. God bless it, it'll just bloom all summer long into the fall. And sometimes I take clumps of summer blooming flowers into the fall, and I dig them up, put them in pots, and bring them indoors.
And they'll bloom again.
And they'll just they'll just kind of keep going. Yeah. So I've been
sort of like a geranium or things like that,
or Iceland poppies and stuff. Yeah.
Did your Iceland poppies do okay indoors?
They did until they got like spider mites or something because I brought them in, but then they appeared a couple weeks later.
Right.
But into the winter, they were blooming these beautiful,
nice,
like salmon colored and yellow and white on the windowsill. It was just great.
That is nice.
Happy plants. Yeah.
Happy plants indeed. So with we went on a flower jaunt, and I thought of something. Oh, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned marigolds. They're like the most underappreciated flower, and I had marigolds in one of my containers that has some sort of tree in it. I can't remember which one, but I just put them for a little color around the base. Those things bloom all summer long. They looked great, but they're also wonderful in a greenhouse, I understand, right? In some situations?
They are marigolds, which, they come in all sizes and shapes. You can get the stripy things that are red and yellow, they're short. You can get really tall ones that are 2 to 3 feet tall, practically. They'll need staking. But I love the fact that in my greenhouse and hoop house, just growing marigolds throughout whatever I have in here, I don't have any aphids.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the whole answer to aphids.
Right.
You want to get into that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So lots of times I read, or people come up to me in the grocery store and they go, Marion, I'm just about to give up. I've got like an aphid explosion in my hoop house. Or I went for a walk and was photographing lupin, and there's just aphids all over them. But in your garden, you know, it all starts with one aphid. And so it goes back to being a curious, like, citizen scientist. If you do your trap line every day, grab your cup of coffee, go out, check the garden, you'll see these pests before they really explode.
So how do you recognize them?
Well, aphids are pretty tricky. They can be a lime green, white, gray, black, almost yellow.
Lovely.
I know.
So, and they're mostly on the underside of a leaf?
Sometimes, or at the new growth, they'll just be all over it.
Oh, at the new growth, like that branches out from a stem.
The sweet
okay.
stuff.
All right.
So, the other thing is, if you have them in your hoop house, it's also an indicator of two things. Your plants are too close together, and you don't have enough air circulation.
Turn on a fan.
Turn on a fan, two
Open
more
the
fans,
doors.
crack open the door. You have to have 24/7 air circulation.
You know, I remember the day when you kept your hoop house closed to keep the pests out. And now you're saying keep it open to move the air through and keep the pests moving on their way.
Right.
Interesting.
Well, and the other thing, too, is you need that exchange of CO2 and oxygen.
Sure.
Because plants are taking in oxygen. And if you close in your hoop house, then they kind of run out in the peak of the season. You'll see the growth slow. The other thing is if it's overcast and rainy, which it does happen around here.
Occasionally.
And you close in your greenhouse or hoop house thinking, I'm going to keep the warmth in, etc.
Sure.
Mold, fungus.
Oh, yeah.
It all happens. Yeah. So
the air circulation is a good thing.
you have to have the air circulation.
Well, when you think about it, a plant out in the wild, so to speak, gets lots of circulation.
Breezes and wind and, yeah.
All right. So we've talked a little bit about food crops and things like that. So I'm new to Kodiak. I want to learn about what I can grow here. What kinds of foods grow well here, and in what? Do I have to have a hoop house?
No, you don't have to have a hoop house. There's a lot of things you can grow here. An amazing variety of things that grow here because we have a temperate climate.
And we have a lot of daylight.
We have a lot of daylight. So in April, I think we're getting on towards like 15 hours.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And that's the generator that plants need to grow. So all of your salad greens, your lettuces, your kales, all those greens, spinach. And those are the things we bought all winter in those special packages. You know, we go, carrots, potatoes, broccoli, all kinds of herbs. You know.
Now, will all of these things just grow in a raised bed or a container? Or how do I get them going so that they don't have problems?
Problems like, you mean, how do you...
Problems like I started them too soon, the soil was too cold, or which remind me to come back to cold boxes.
Okay, yeah.
And then, or pests and things like that, you know. That was a wide-ranging question.
Well, it sure was. So let me get back to, if you're new to Kodiak...
Right.
And you want to grow something.
Right.
You're either going to have a raised bed box or not. You know, you're going to inherit something because you bought a house or you have an apartment and then there's raised beds out there. So right now would be to fluff it up, get the soil going. Right. The other thing is if you want some sort of greenhouse or protection, you can put PVC pipes like 8-foot lengths right into your raised beds, cover it with plastic, and then I'll warm it up.
It looks like a little covered wagon.
It looks like a little Conestoga wagon, exactly.
Okay.
And then think about what you like to eat, food crops. So if your family doesn't like carrots, then maybe just grow a few for you. Yeah. If you really like spuds or potatoes, then set aside some space for that. And you don't have to grow a full-sized kale plant. You can take a mixture of salad greens, which is really fun. You can kind of just do the fresh stuff, or you can kind of do a stir-fry braising mix kind of thing. And you're just sowing rows. And when they get to be 3, 4, 5, 6 inches tall, you get out your little scissors. And then, in a few weeks, you've got something to eat. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So lots of different kinds of foods can be grown. One of the things we talked about was unique ways to grow and unique kinds of containers to grow foods, like for apartment dwellers or maybe people who just don't have that much yard space. Mm-hmm. How do you, I've seen unique things growing in weird things in your yard, for example. So what are some of those techniques that people could use?
Techniques would be, you can get a burlap coffee bag.
Okay.
You can fill it 2/3 full with chunky stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect soil. It can be, little sticks and big chunky kelp and stuff like that. And that can be a growing bag.
Huh.
If you have a section of gutter, drill holes in the bottom and affix it to a fence. In there, you can plant something that doesn't have a big root system, like a hog thing, and that would be maybe nasturtiums or lettuce or cress.
What about strawberries? Would they do okay?
Strawberries would do great. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, potting soil with a little compost in it. I've experimented with this. I went to the Salvation Army and I picked up a few purses, like ladies' bags.
Yeah.
And I filled them full of soil and I hung them on the fence.
And they worked.
Yep. Halibut tubs, which is a classic.
Yeah.
If you want to make $1 million, is promote halibut tubs as the best, the newest gardening container on the planet.
Yeah, they're really good.
So when we have people come up to our B&B from outside, and they go, "What's this? This round black thing?" And I go, "Hey, that's a halibut tub. It's the best gardening container in the world." And they go, "Wow, I wish I could get these in my hardware store in, Wisconsin."
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's just, you look at a container, as long as you can put holes in it, and it's at least, say, 8 inches deep, perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. For just about anything. So cold boxes. Where I grew up, cold boxes were used all the time, where you have just a box of some sort. It could even just be a couple of pieces of wood propping up an old glass window. And you would start seeds and start plants in there. And sometimes you would keep plants in there during the colder times and open it up to air it out, etc. I don't see many people using cold boxes here. Do you know why that is? Does it not work here?
I think cold boxes or cold frames, which have been classic gardening transition items between the seasons. In France, for example, it was very common to put fresh manure in the bottom of the cold box, and as it during the heat would come out of that, and you'd set plants on top of those. Huh. And I think for cold boxes, they're here. Maybe we're just not recognizing them. And I think they're in the that's the hoop. That's the mini hoop. Mm-hmm. I think is the old cold frame.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess I could think of it that way. Yeah.
And it's a transition thing. You can start seedlings in there for transplanting later. You can bring your seedling trays out
and set them in
the
there?
hardening off process. Hardening off is really just getting plants like couch potato plants from your house or garage and getting them accustomed to the real outdoors, which is what you want to do. Otherwise, they suffer from transplant shock, sun scald. It'd be like you and me going to Mexico and not preparing or lathering up or...
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Same thing. Mm-hmm. You got to think like a plant. Think
like a plant. Okay. So I'm thinking like a plant, and I'm out there in the summertime, or perhaps this time of year, I'm a shrub, and I'm out there, and this little 4-footed, beautiful, small Sitka black-tailed deer comes along and wants to munch all the shrubbery down. So what are things, and there are things that get into your plants year-round that are not bugs, but are animals.
Bigger bugs.
Bigger bugs. How do you protect some of your plants from the rabbits, from the deer, from the cats, the dogs, etc.?
It's a very good question. It's a universal
Yeah, I bet it is.
problem. Let me tell you a story. Last year, I was out in the garden next to my greenhouse, which is just really close to our neighbor's fence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just weeding in one of the raised beds. And I look up, and 5 feet from me are 3 deer
Ooh.
standing in the neighbor's yard in their raised bed, just looking at me. It was like transporting me to another zone. It went, whoa, just 3 Sitka black-tailed deer staring at me.
Interesting.
And, and then I kind of inched my way like this to grab my phone and turned around, and they were gone. Huh. And part of me goes, did that really happen? So let's kind of go down a list. So, yes, you can have a fence.
Mm-hmm.
If they're actually getting in your yard, though, you need to then fence around your particular shrubs and stuff. If it's birds, then that's where the mini hoop that's covered with small web, fishnet, as in the old shrimp web, keeps the birds out.
Okay.
Yep. They don't get tangled in it. They just go, okay, I'm not eating there. And they won't dig up your carrot seeds. And, yeah, they do the kind of Michael Jackson shuffle.
So you have different coverings for your mini hoops.
Exactly. So
the
hoops are in
plastic in the winter.
So in the winter, in the fall, we mulch like crazy in the raised beds. We plant garlic and leave one for salad greens. We cover everything. And then we open them up and close them depending on what the spring weather is like. And those black 2-inch paper clips, those big honking things.
Oh, the binder clips.
Clips. And that's what I use to keep it down. And then as the season progresses, I might cover it with something like the shrimp web to keep the birds out, to keep the rabbits out, and cats and dogs. If it's pests like root maggots, which starts with a fly or or the butterfly, the moth, the cabbage moth, then I use tulle fabric, which is the wedding fabric. Ta-da!
Yes. Or tutus.
Yeah, tutus. Now, here's something about cats and dogs. There are ordinances on the books. And so within the city limits, they're not supposed to be out and about. And if a dog, like your dog, is getting into your raised beds, I hear it all the time. I can't have a garden because Fido is out digging. Well, whose fault is that?
Yeah, got to train your dog.
A little training issue. If it's a neighbor's dog, go talk to your neighbor.
Yeah.
Because it's not supposed to happen. And also the city, they do have live traps. I mean, I had a feral cat getting in our yard time and time again. And I put signs up. I said, whose is this? And I got a live trap. And then maybe they found a nice home somewhere. I went to the shelter. And, yeah, there's solutions to everything.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Are rabbits a particular problem for your garden or around here? I mean, I know we have plenty of it. They're cyclical. You have them at various
out in
years.
The flats,
yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe not so much in town. And they will dig up and chew.
Mm.
And tulips are particularly susceptible for deer and other critters to eat.
Sure, that's it.
Because they're edible. Yeah. The bulb itself is edible.
Yeah.
During the war, it saved lives. People were invading forces and so on. They were digging up tulip bulbs to eat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have just a few minutes left here. How would you like to wrap it up? We've kind of gone all over the place like we usually do. Sorry.
Well, May.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about May.
Yeah.
Marion has graciously hosted for the past 3 years, maybe?
This might be our 4th year.
This might be the 4th year. A garden sale, basically, at her establishment, which benefits KMXT. So if you would like to buy, there's all kinds of things. What kind of seedlings do you have going this year?
Oh, I have hundreds. I saved some Iceland poppy seeds from last year.
Ooh.
So those are about a half an inch tall right now.
Okay, so in several weeks, it's 6 weeks from now or so, they will be big-ish.
I'll be dividing out some Meconopsis or poppies, blue poppies.
Okay.
And white blue poppies.
Nice.
Lots of marigolds started.
Oh.
All shapes and sizes.
Oh.
So and some tomatoes and if you want to donate,
Yes, you can contact me here at the station, and we'll figure out how to get the plants to Marion. Our number here is 907-486-3181. If you want to donate plants, the plant sale itself is on May 6th, which is a Saturday. What are the hours, Marion?
It's usually 10 till whenever. It's usually like 10 to 2.
Okay.
And, I mean, we're not talking about plants. We're talking about, like, rhubarb. Maybe you've got currant bushes you're pruning.
Sure. Primroses that you're splitting that you have extras of. You can donate any of that. And those are the kinds of things that you will find at this sale also. So there's all kinds of stuff.
And I'll bet there's red rhubarb knuckles showing up in people's gardens.
So? Well, maybe.
I've got crocuses coming up out of our lawn.
All right. Well,
they know what they're doing. I mean, plants are amazing. Yeah.
Plants are amazing. Yeah. That's true.
And they don't care if you're having a bad hair day or anything. They just keep on growing. They just got to do this. They have to grow.
Yeah. They have to grow. So right now, though, we have crocuses coming up. I noticed actually near a southern-facing cliff, salmonberry buds the other day.
Salmonberry buds, and I'm seeing little dandelion shoots come up.
Ryegrass is starting to come up on the beach.
Yeah. It's just such signs of hope. I just love it. And I'm going to see my first bumblebee soon. I just know it.
Oh, I did. We haven't even touched on bumblebees.
Yep.
So those should be around...
First part, April-ish. It just depends.
Okay.
The first ones we see are the queen that survived the whole winter.
Right. And she has to go out and find a new home.
New home. She's homeless. So she needs to find a new home to start a new brood.
And get going. And one of the things, if you have flowers that are coming up early in the spring, crocuses, etc., those bees, those queens, will rest inside your flowers. So when you're out wandering around in your garden doing your little garden check like Marion talks about, you should take a look inside the little crocuses and see if there's a bumblebee in there. It's pretty sweet to see.
It's like a little sleeping bag.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And let's see, so she'll get going here in another 2 weeks or so, probably, depending on what's going on. Yeah. And you have bumblebee homes and houses built?
I have bumblebee boxes that will be going out here the next week or so. And a little hole in the front.
Yep.
Yeah, a little nesting box.
So we'll see. Hopefully they're successful this year.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. If somebody is new to gardening and wants to get going, how do you inspire them, Marion?
There are often little workshops around town. Go to the farmers markets. Talk to the people who bring stuff.
There's a community garden too, right?
There's a community garden, yes. And also that's kind of by, what's the street?
Larch
Street. And I write the Monday column in the Daily Mirror for 27 years. There's a Kodiak Growers Facebook page. It's a very friendly community here as far as gardeners. A lot of sharing. It's lovely.
All right. So give me a call if you have questions. We can follow up with Marion later. And thanks for listening.